What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So I want to have a conversation on this channel about black victimhood versus terrible circumstances. Why am I having this conversation? Jason Whitlock is talking to Marshall Falk and Warren Sapp about victimhood in Black America, etc. And I'm looking in the comment section of this video, and yes, I watch things that I don't agree with just to see what people's talking points are, just to see other perspectives, to try to see what they're saying, and to see if it makes any sense, to see if there are some things that I could agree with or certain things that I'm like, no, that ain't right, just to hear another side, right? I'm looking through the comment section of the video, and people like, yo, because Jason Whitlock has a lot of white conservatives love Jason Whitlock. They love him to the heavens above, right? And Jason, they like, I agree with Jason. A lot of people have had hard lives in America. Nobody cares. Just work hard, bust your ass, and good things will come. What I want to tell y'all is, sometimes, a lot of times, working hard is not enough. That's not fucking enough in this country. It's not. Okay? Because a lot of people will let you believe that all they done was work hard. They just work harder than everybody else, and that's how they got what they got, or got to the top. No. A lot of times, them people got a leg up from knowing the right people, knowing this person, knowing that person, getting in the right rooms, and somebody owing a favor to your family, or your mama, your daddy owning this company and being wealthy, or being a partner in this, that, and the third, and that's what got that person in the door. But a lot of times they try to trick black people into thinking that all they did was work hard. They worked hard. They work hard. That's all they did, right? So let's get back to the topic at hand: black victimhood versus terrible circumstances. I'm a man who from the south side of Chicago, Illinois. I'm talking about south side, inner city, the wild neighborhoods that a lot of people hear about and stuff like that. I was growing up in them areas, right? I went to a magnet school, went to a selective enrollment high school on the far south side of Chicago, Morgan Park. Went to a magnet school, Parental Language Academy. Went and earned a full academic scholarship to Mississippi Valley State University, a historically black college in Itta, Mississippi, located in the Mississippi Delta. Went on to get my master's degree from Arkansas State University in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Came back home to then work in corporate America, right? So, with me working in corporate America and me getting to being degreed up, having 2 degrees and all of that, a lot of people try to use me as the good old boy thing. Oh, see, Malcolm, you did it. You did it. Why can't the other people do it? Try to use me to put down other black people. That's what they do, right? And you did it. You did it. You did it. Why couldn't everybody else do it? And I promise you, I stopped them right there. I stopped them in their tracks with all that bullshit, because you're not going to try to uplift me to tear other black people down. Why am I saying this? This is where the topic of black victimhood versus terrible circumstances come into play. Yes, there are some people who have been given opportunities in the hood. They don't take them. They don't take it seriously. They just rest. They just sit around not doing nothing and think shit gonna come to them. Yes, there are people like that. But majority of the people in the hood were born into terrible circumstances, right? And they could never get out of that. And they could never get help out of these terrible circumstances. What do I mean by that? They didn't have a mother and father like mine who advocated for me. Despite me growing up in the hood, my people advocated for me, right? My mother was a young mother. She had me at 19, had my sister at 17 years old. When we were coming up in school, she fought for us to go to a magnet school, right? A magnet school outside of our neighborhood. We was staying 65th and Low Terrace high-rise building in Inglewood, Chicago. My mama determined, she was determined not to have us go to school in Inglewood. Right? She wanted us to go to a good school with a great curriculum. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, my father's mother, was a substitute teacher often at Turner Language Academy on 93rd and Princeton, right in the middle of them townhouses by 95th and the Dan Ryan. That's over there. It's a hood area, but that school is excellent, exemplary. I was learning Russian in that school. So my mom fought for us to get in that school, which she found out about from my paternal grandmother, right? They knew my grandmother and all of that, but I took a test to get into that school. Then my sister came, because I was in there. You allowed to bring your sibling in there. My sister came into the school. My older sister came into the school with me after I tested and got in Turner Language Academy. In that school, I was learning how to type without looking down at the keyboard in 3rd grade. We had skins over the keyboard, and we learned how to type without looking down, which came into handy with me typing papers. I learned how to write a paper at a college entry level in 6th and 7th grade. Seriously. I learned not to say stuff like, first of all, secondly, third of all. I learned how to open papers, how to close papers, right? How to have hook grabbing attention hook grabbers in my first sentence of my writing, right? I learned how to use transitional words and all of that as a young boy. I learned how to write in cursive in 3rd grade. I learned a lot of other skills, math skills, and all of those things as a young boy. I learned how to do a science project the correct way, using a control and all of that in this magnet school, right? I learned how to speak Russian, learn how to speak French, right? And I stopped after the 3rd grade, but I still remember some of these things, right? Paruski, you know what I mean? I still remember I took French, all of those things. My mother had fought for us to get into that school, so we can be on track to excel not only in high school but also in college. I went to my mama made sure my sister, my older sister, went to Young Women's Leadership Charter School, a charter school that was funded by Oprah Winfrey, but was sending girls to college and kids were excelling in there. I went to Morgan Park High School on the far south side of Chicago, which had one of the best curriculums for a public school, for Chicago public school in Chicago, right? My mom, let me take it back to when I was in elementary school. At one point, me and my mom, my father and my mom had split. Me and my mom and my sisters, we living down on 48th in Indiana. Now my father, we're out now outside of the school district to where the buses won't pick us up to take us to the magnet school that I'm going to. My father knew this. My father would get up from his home on 107th and Calumet, come down to 48th in Indiana, which is a distance away, to take us to a school on 93rd in Princeton, just to make sure we went to school every day. He was getting up and doing that every single morning. And after that, when he couldn't do it, he was paying for us to take a private transportation to go to these schools. Him and my mom both putting in money for us to still remain at that magnet school so we could stay in a good school that was teaching us well, right? My mom was making sure I went to a high school where, when I was at the high school, the guidance counselors cared about us going to school. They made sure we were applying to colleges. They made sure that we would sit in their office to make sure we were doing everything correctly. They were giving us waivers, fee waivers, to fill out these college applications because some of these applications were $50 to apply to some of these schools, right? All of those things. She made sure my mom and my father both made sure I stayed in the right environment so I can succeed and so I could grow. A lot of my other friends didn't have mom and fathers like I did. Some of them didn't know their fathers. Some of them knew their fathers, but their fathers just worked. They didn't know how to do anything else outside of really advocate for their children. Their mothers did not really know how to advocate for their children because nobody taught them, and they really wasn't really trying because they just like, hey, my kid in school, whatever. My mama wasn't just accepting us being in school. My grandmother wasn't just accepting us being in any old school. My father wasn't accepting us being in any old school. He made sure we went to the best schools that we could go to. You know, and we went to public school, but we went to good schools to keep us on the track to succeed, right? I had some of my friends' mothers working late nights. The mothers were not. Some of my friends' mothers I knew fell into drug addiction, right? Some of my friends' mothers they were too poor to even think about anything else but not having lights, not having heat in the house. We didn't have heat in the house and stuff like that at times. Well, my mama said, hey, we still got to do what we got to do. We sleep in one room with that dang on electric heater on and make it crack, make it happen. We had to use that crock pot on the stove to warm up some water for us to wash up in. Sometimes we got to do what we got to do. But my mama still was keeping that track, keeping us on that right track to keep us like, nah, we got to keep going. We got to keep going, right? My father, we got to keep doing what we got to do. We got to keep them in this school. My father going to keep we got to keep all them in that school. They can't change school no matter what. I'm going to go pick them up every day no matter what I got to do to keep them there, right? So you got people born into terrible circumstances. Some of my homies was living in shelters, right? Living in shelters during school. Some of my homies, who can they turn to? Your mama's, like, some of them came from terrible households where their mama was putting men before them. Drug stuff going on in the house, everybody on the block gang banging, and everybody in the household gang banging, and it's just a whole bunch of chaos. So who do you turn to at that point? You know what I mean? So everybody don't have it the same way I had it. I was in the hood, but I had parents that advocated for me. Parents that stood on business for me. When I went to college, You know, my father worked his ass off. I watched my father, like real talk, I tell you, my father was a hustler. He wasn't selling no drugs or nothing like that, but he had his own cable business. My daddy then hooked up majority half of Chicago cable, more than half, and the Chicago land, the whole more than half of the Chicago land area, doing hooking up cable. But he wasn't working with the company anymore. He built up his own clientele from working with the company and then left. Right? My father, I watched when I went to college. I went to college in 2011, right? At this point, the cable company started making it harder for people to bootleg cable. They went to digital boxes, right? And you had to know a certain code to crack them digital boxes to keep the boxes going. My father was out of the loop. He had not been working for the cable company for forever, so he didn't know how to work them digital boxes. He knew a man who knew how to work the digital boxes, right? I watched my father break his pride and asked another man, could he help and show him how to do them boxes, begging him to show him how to do them boxes so that he can do enough cable jobs to get me to school, to get the truck, to go down to school, to get all the supplies I needed, to get everything I needed, and then some, right? But he's like, I got to do these cable jobs. I got to stack up these jobs. I got to get all this. I got to do what I got to do to make this money to get my boy down to college because he on a full scholarship. I got to get him there. I got to make sure he got everything he need. I got to make sure he got the clothing. He got food. He got all the stuff he needs. Now my mom was doing that too, but my father was like, I got to do this. The man didn't want to help tell my dad how to do the boxes because he wanted to keep all the information to himself so he can keep making the money to himself. So he didn't tell my dad how to do the boxes. My father would end up still doing cable jobs because digital boxes wasn't the only thing going on. They still had the other boxes as well. My father still was hustling up doing all the cable jobs he could outside of the digital cable box jobs. He was doing all the jobs he could, stacked up that money to get that van, to get all the stuff I needed, the clothes, the food, all the stuff I needed. He went and hustled up and got me down to school. Right? Him and my mom, both, my stepfather, all of them, my stepmother, all of them got me down to school. Right? You know how many kids get scholarships and they mama like, who gonna take you down there? I ain't taking you down there. Shit, I ain't doing that. You gonna be right here at Chicago State. You gonna go to Kennedy King. All of that. Nothing wrong with those schools. But you know what I mean? Like my people advocated for me to leave, to get out the hood, to go see something different. I went and did the work in school, but they put me in a school so I can excel, so I can learn certain skills to be able to show that, hey, I'm exemplary in the classroom. Then when I became exemplary in the classroom, I got my full ride academic scholarship. But my people had to drive me to Mississippi Valley State University, 10 hours away from Chicago, to get me down there. And they did just that. Okay? There are some people who are born into circumstances where people have a lack of knowledge. They don't have ambition. They don't have drive. They're pessimistic. They're not optimistic about their children. They're not forward-thinking people to think, hey, if I do this and put my kid in this school, they could be on a trajectory where they can go to big-time college. They can get, a free scholarship. They can get a scholarship to college. They could go on and get a doctorate or master's degree. A lot of these people in the hood, some of them they don't have parents who have that type of foresight. And so they don't instill that drive into their children. They don't speak life into their children to where the kid think, hey, college not for me, because your mama don't want to pay for college, or she don't want to take you down to college, or she can't pay for it, or she don't want to take you all the way down to college, and she didn't go to college, so she talking down to you and telling you that, hey, college ain't for you, just go get a job. You don't have a parent pouring life into you. My parents poured life into me, got me into the right schools, advocated for me and my sisters to get into the right schools, all of that, right? To change our way of thinking, to change our circumstance. I had a mama who was taking us. We living on 65th and Low, 48th in Indiana, 65th in Minerva. You hear me? We living in all these different neighborhoods in the hood. My mama taking us to go to the museum. My mama worked for United Airlines. I went on my first flight, first class at 6 years old because my mama worked for the airline. So we flew for free because we were her children. She took us to Orlando, Florida. I'm 6 years old, first class, eating that nasty food, which I think probably would be a little better now. It still didn't look appetizing, but I wanted some chicken nuggets and some chicken tenders and fries, right? But we flying in first class. I'm able to get these experiences, going to the Mall of America, you know what I mean? Going to DC, all that type of stuff, going all these different places with my mom. We going down south. We going on these planes so we can see a different environment and see better, to let us know it's more out here outside of just the hood. So we could broaden our horizons, and then at that point we could then dream big to go and achieve something. It's a lot of parents that a lot of parents, excuse me, a lot of other people that were my age, their parents didn't do those things. Couldn't do those things. Didn't know how to do those things. Didn't know how to teach drive or teach ambition to instill that in their children. So no, they wasn't, they just being victims. They didn't have people to advocate for them to get them in the right doors. They didn't have people to put them in the right rooms so circumstances can play out well for them. They didn't go to Ivy League schools where the degree spoke for them and they didn't have to apply for nothing. They just got the job right on site. So no, black victimhood, that's terrible circumstances. Cut that out, man.